I'm presenting Hackability, using co-design to develop an accessible toolkit for adding pockets to garments. I'm Meiklejohn from Carleton University in Canada, and this paper was made with my collaborators during my summer 2019 fellowship with OpenStyle Lab. OpenStyle Lab is a unique program that brings together designers, engineers, occupational therapists, and individuals with disabilities to work on co-design for clothing and dressing challenges. Our goal was to work on accessible toolkits so that individuals with disabilities can hack clothes to suit their own needs. So for example, someone could buy a dress they really like based on style and then adapt it with an accessible toolkit afterwards. We also wanted to make the toolkit fun to use by focusing on activities that our collaborators were interested in. In the end, we worked on an accessible pocket toolkit. And in this presentation, I'll describe the steps we went through to get there and our findings. For our study, we worked with 9 young women who had mobility disabilities that affected range of motion, manual dexterity, and strength, and all had an interest in fashion and building maker toolkits. We worked with them to co-design an adaptive toolkit over a 5-week period. During this time, we met with collaborators once a week and updated the toolkit in between. The results from this research include insights from the toolkit iterations and a survey that each individual completed at the end of the program. For week 1, we did mood board activities with our collaborators to get to know them and the dressing challenges that they would like to address. A lot of our collaborators discussed wanting to have their personal items, such as a cell phone or a wallet, within reach and easier to grab. So we developed a pouch pocket activity for the next week. This included a what's in your bag activity to discuss what types of pockets they would like, where they would like them, and then the participants built a pouch pocket, which is two pockets adhered together to make a bag, and brought it home for the week to explore whether it was strong enough and it suited their needs and held everything. Based on their feedback in week 3, we did further iterations on stencils and tools for the pocket toolkit, and individuals ordered the piece of clothing they would like to hack from the Macy's website. In week 4, they used the updated toolkit to hack their chosen item of clothing with the pockets of their choice. For week 5, we had a public fashion show where our collaborators got to show off their garment hacks to friends and family and discuss their experience in the program. The first result I'm going to discuss are the tools and iterations. For the pocket stencils, our collaborators chose 3 favorites that could be used in a wide variety of garments. Each stencil was made with an absorbent cardboard that could be used to guide a rotary cutter without damaging the stencil. We included dotted lines for sewing and chalk lines for the adhesive. Our collaborators found strips of adhesive easier to work with rather than an adhesive roll, so we made the strips into a modular sticker sheet with pull tabs. For sewing, we worked with our collaborators to make an adaptive threader that had a flat bottom so that it could be used to thread a needle with one hand. For holding things together, sewing clips were safer to use than sewing needles for those with paralysis who might not feel a pinprick. For chalk, we replaced Taylor's chalk with board chalk since it requires less pressure to make a mark, and used a built-up foam for an easier grasp. We also looked at the results of our survey that collaborators filled out. They emphasized the importance of style variability and often reference their mood boards when talking about the design of their pocket and how they hack their garment. When we first started, we assumed that our collaborators would want to do each task on their own, but what we found was that they really valued collaboration. For example, most participants had a difficult time sewing, but when working together, they found it fun and were able to use the strengths of others. For example, one collaborator could push the needle through the fabric and the other could pull it out. We also noticed that participants used the toolkit to explore other crafts. For example, one participant used the same pocket toolkit to make a set of finger puppets based on their favorite show, demonstrating how the tools and skills can be applied to other making activities. We have several recommendations for other researchers who want to develop toolkits for individuals with mobility challenges. The first one is to utilize stencils and tactile cues. Using stencils made it easier for our participants to draw models for their mood boards, trace cutting lines, trace sewing dots, and cut using a rotary cutter. These guides turned many activities that our collaborators had previously thought of as inaccessible into accessible ones. 2. Utilize tools that do not require strength or pressure. By switching Taylor's chalk for board chalk and scissors for a rotary cutter, our collaborators were able to complete drawing and cutting tasks. 3. Design unilateral activities. Many of our tools became more accessible when we co-designed them to be used unilaterally. Threading a needle became a one-handed task when the threader had a flat bottom, and this enabled individuals to thread a needle independently. Cutting became a one-handed task with sewing clips to hold down the fabric. 4. Do not limit making methods based on abilities. Diversify. Though our collaborators could use the adhesive independently, many of them also wanted to learn how to sew and enjoyed doing so in pairs. We suggest instead of reducing the making methods to diversify to include all methods your collaborators are interested in. In the end, participants were able to take the toolkit home with them and continue adapting their clothes. Overall, our collaborators found learning new skills to be a valuable part of the co-design experience, and we would encourage researchers to consider how they can enable collaborators to become makers and designers. We found that by co-designing accessible toolkits that leveraged activities they were interested in, they could design for their functional needs without compromising their personal style. Overall, our paper contributes recommendations for co-designing accessible maker toolkits with individuals with mobility disabilities that researchers can leverage in future work. For more details, please check out our Hackability paper. Thank you.